My beloved child, stop for a moment. There is something I want you to understand about the door that closed. You called it rejection. You called it failure. You called it bad timing. You wondered why you prayed so hard for something, only to watch it disappear right in front of you. You thought that if God truly heard you, the door would have opened. But what if the closed door was part of the answer? What if the thing you cried over was never meant to become your destination? What if the opportunity you thought you lost was actually an opportunity God was protecting you from? And what if, years from now, you will look back at this exact season and whisper, "Now I understand why it couldn't happen." My child, this message is for the heart that is still standing outside a door that has already closed. You keep looking at it. You keep remembering what was behind it. You keep wondering what your life would have looked like if you had been allowed to enter. But today, I want you to stop staring at the door behind you. Turn around, because there is a road in front of you that you cannot fully see yet. And sometimes God closes what you desperately wanted, because He knows what you desperately need. Take a breath. Let that settle into your heart. Not every closed door is a punishment. Some are protection. Some are redirection. Some are preparation. And some are God's gentle way of saying, "My child, you are asking me for this, but I see what you cannot see. You only saw the opportunity. God saw the entire story. You saw the beginning. He saw the ending. You saw what you wanted. He saw what it would cost you. And that changes the way you should look at rejection. Maybe you experienced a rejection that still hurts, a job you desperately wanted, a relationship you thought would last, a business opportunity that disappeared, a friendship that suddenly ended, a dream that seemed almost within reach, and then somehow slipped through your hands. You prayed, you waited, you hoped, and then the door closed. Maybe you even asked, "God, why? Why this opportunity? Why this person? Why this timing? Why did you let me get so close if it wasn't going to happen?" Those questions are human. They don't make you weak. But there is another question you may need to ask. Not, "Why did God close this door?" but, "What is God teaching me now that the door is closed?" That question changes everything, because when you keep demanding an explanation for yesterday, you can miss the direction God is giving you today. Sometimes the answer doesn't arrive as an explanation. Sometimes the answer arrives as a new direction. Think about this. A child may cry because a parent refuses to let them touch something dangerous. The child doesn't understand the refusal. All they see is what they cannot have. But the parent sees the danger beyond their understanding. In the same way, there may be things you desperately wanted that were never safe for the person you were becoming. You wanted the relationship, but God may have been protecting your peace. You wanted the position, but perhaps your character needed more preparation. You wanted the quick success, but perhaps you needed wisdom before influence. You wanted that particular path, but maybe your purpose was never located there. And this is difficult to accept, because we often confuse desire with destiny. Just because you want something deeply doesn't mean it belongs in your future. And just because something hurts to lose doesn't mean losing it was a mistake. Sometimes the hardest goodbye becomes the beginning of your healthiest chapter. Sometimes rejection is not God saying, "You are not good enough." It is God saying, "This is not where I want you to build your life." My beloved child, you need to hear this. You did not fail simply because something didn't work. A closed door is not a measurement of your worth. You are not less valuable because someone rejected you. You are not less gifted because an opportunity passed you by. You are not behind because someone else's life appears to be moving faster. Your journey is not a race against another person's timeline. There are people who will enter doors before you. Let them. There are people whose lives will look completely different from yours. Let them. You do not need to steal someone else's timeline to live your own purpose. What God has for your journey does not require you to become someone else. Maybe you've spent too much time comparing. You look at someone else's success and think, why not me? You see their relationship, their career, their home, their opportunities, their progress. And you quietly wonder whether you missed your moment. But comparison can make you mourn a life you were never supposed to live. Your assignment is not to become someone else's story. Your assignment is to faithfully live yours. So breathe. Your closed door does not mean your life is closing. One door can shut while an entire hallway of possibilities is opening. There is another reason a door may close. Sometimes you have changed. The environment that once felt comfortable begins to feel too small. The conversations that once entertained you no longer satisfy you. The habits you once defended begin to disturb your spirit. The relationships you once depended on begin to reveal unhealthy patterns. And suddenly, what once felt normal feels completely different. Why? Because you are growing. Growth changes your appetite. Growth changes your boundaries. Growth changes what you tolerate. Growth changes what you pursue. And sometimes God allows an old door to close because the person walking through your next door cannot keep living like the person who entered the previous one. You cannot carry every old habit into a new season. You cannot keep returning to the same place and expect a completely different life. At some point, you have to accept that the chapter ended, not because it was meaningless, but because it fulfilled its purpose. Some people were teachers. Some seasons were classrooms. Some failures were lessons. Some losses were warnings. Some disappointments were preparation. And some doors were simply doors you were never meant to enter. Perhaps the hardest doors to release are the ones that almost opened. You were close. So close. You could see the possibility. You imagined your future around it. You started planning. You started celebrating internally. And then something happened. The opportunity disappeared. The person changed. The answer became no. The plan collapsed. And now you're stuck with one painful word. Almost. Almost happened. Almost worked. Almost became yours. But listen carefully. Your life cannot be built around almost. You cannot spend the next 5 years standing beside a door that closed 5 years ago. At some point, you must stop asking, what if? And start asking, what now? What now? God, where should I walk? What should I learn? What should I release? Who should I become? What opportunity is right in front of me that I have been too distracted by disappointment to notice? Because disappointment can become a room. And if you stay there too long, you may start decorating it. You may make disappointment your identity. You may begin saying, this always happens to me. Nothing ever works for me. I never get chosen. Maybe good things aren't meant for me. No, don't build your identity around a closed door. You are more than what rejected you. One of the hardest lessons of faith is accepting that you may never understand every reason. Sometimes you will receive the explanation. Sometimes you won't. Sometimes years later, you'll see it clearly. Other times, you'll simply have to trust. And faith becomes powerful precisely there. When you don't have every answer. When you cannot connect every piece. When the map is incomplete. You still take the next step. Scripture tells us that we walk by faith, not by sight. That doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means refusing to believe that what you can currently see is the whole story. Your current circumstances are a snapshot. God sees the entire picture. You see one chapter. He sees the book. You see today's closed door. He sees tomorrow's road. And perhaps that is why you need to stop demanding that God reveal the entire plan before you trust Him. Sometimes, clarity comes after obedience. The next step becomes visible after you take the current one. There is something else you need to hear. When a door closes, loneliness can make you want to reopen it. You begin remembering only the good parts. You forget why you were hurting. You forget the confusion. You forget the sleepless nights. You remember the comfort, but forget the cost. Be careful. Not every familiar place is a safe place. Not every familiar person belongs in your future. Not every open door deserves your entrance, and not every closed door deserves to be reopened. Sometimes we return to old situations simply because the future feels unfamiliar. But unfamiliar does not mean wrong. New does not mean dangerous. And being alone for a season does not mean you have been abandoned. Sometimes solitude is where your voice becomes clear again. Sometimes distance helps you recognize what closeness prevented you from seeing. Sometimes God separates you from certain environments because you cannot heal while continuously returning to the place that wounded you. So don't reopen a door simply because you're afraid of what lies beyond it. If God is leading you forward, walk forward. Let me ask you something. What if that relationship had continued? Would you have become the person you are becoming now? What if that opportunity had worked? Would you have developed the wisdom you now possess? What if you had received everything you wanted 5 years ago? Would your heart have been ready to carry it? What if the delay wasn't destroying your future, but protecting it? We often pray for immediate answers, but God may be working toward lasting transformation. We want the blessing. He wants the character. We want the destination. He wants to shape the traveler. We want the harvest. He is developing the roots. And roots take time. No one applauds roots. Nobody sees them. Nobody photographs them. But when the storm arrives, the roots are what keep the tree standing. Maybe your unanswered prayers have been building roots. Maybe your unanswered prayers have been deepening you. Maybe your disappointments have made you wiser. Maybe your rejection has taught you discernment. Maybe your loneliness has taught you dependence on God rather than constant approval from people. Maybe the door closed because you were becoming someone who needed a different door. My child, look at your life again. Not through the eyes of disappointment, through the eyes of possibility. You still have breath. You still have choices. You still have gifts. You still have purpose. You still have opportunities you haven't discovered. You still have people you haven't met. You still have places you haven't seen. You still have prayers you haven't prayed. You still have chapters you haven't lived. So don't let one closed door convince you that the entire building is closed. It isn't. Stand up. Wipe your tears. Take what the season taught you. Leave behind what it was never meant to keep. And move. Move with wisdom. Move with patience. Move with prayer. Move with courage. The next door may not look like the one you expected. It may not arrive in the package you imagined. It may not come through the person you thought would deliver it. It may appear through an unexpected conversation, a new skill, a different opportunity, a quiet idea, a fresh beginning, a change of direction. Pay attention. Because sometimes God doesn't announce a new chapter with thunder. Sometimes He simply gives you peace about taking the next step. Before this message ends, I want you to do something. Think about one door that closed in your life. Don't run from the memory. Look at it honestly. Then ask, what did that door teach me? Maybe it taught you boundaries, maybe patience, maybe self-respect, maybe discernment, maybe forgiveness, maybe courage, maybe dependence on God. Maybe it taught you that you cannot build your identity around another person's acceptance. Whatever the lesson is, take it with you, but don't carry the disappointment. Take the wisdom. Leave the bitterness. Take the growth. Leave the shame. Take the memories. Leave the chains. Take the lesson. Leave the fear. Because you are not supposed to live forever in the place where you learned the lesson. My beloved child, there may be a time when you finally understand. You'll look back at the opportunity you begged God to give you. You'll remember how badly you wanted it. And you'll realize, if that door had opened, I might never have found this road. That realization can bring tears. Not tears of regret, tears of gratitude. Because sometimes the thing you thought was breaking your story was actually redirecting it. Sometimes God's protection looks like disappointment at first. Sometimes His mercy looks like a closed door. Sometimes His guidance feels like confusion before it becomes clarity. And sometimes the answer to your prayer is not, yes. It is, not this. not because you are unworthy, not because you are forgotten, but because your future requires a different direction. So stop begging for doors that God has already closed. Stop knocking on places that no longer carry your purpose. Stop trying to convince people to choose you. Stop returning to environments that continually drain your peace. There is dignity in walking away. There is strength in accepting the ending. There is faith in believing that God can lead you somewhere new. If today you are standing in front of a closed door, don't call yourself rejected. Call yourself redirected. If you are waiting, don't call yourself forgotten. Call yourself prepared. If something ended, don't call your life finished. Call it a chapter completed. And if you don't know what comes next, don't panic. You don't need tomorrow's strength today. You need today's grace. Take today's step. Pray today's prayer. Do today's work. Trust God with tomorrow. And remember, a closed door cannot cancel God's ability to lead you. The road may change. The timeline may change. The people around you may change. Your plans may change. But God's faithfulness remains. So lift your head. There is more ahead. Maybe not what you originally imagined. Maybe not on the schedule you created. Maybe not through the person you expected. But there is still purpose ahead. There is still growth ahead. There is still beauty ahead. There is still a reason to hope. And perhaps the door you are grieving today is the very door that had to close so you could finally see the path you were too distracted to notice. My beloved child, the door closed. Yes, let it close. Don't chase it. Don't break yourself trying to reopen it. Don't measure your worth by what was behind it. Turn around. Lift your eyes. There is a road ahead. And perhaps, with every step you take in faith, you will discover that what felt like rejection was actually redirection. What felt like loss was preparation. What felt like an ending was a beginning waiting for you to recognize it. Keep walking. Your story is still unfolding. Take one final moment and let this truth settle deep inside your heart. A closed door does not mean God has closed your story. Perhaps you don't understand what happened yet. Perhaps your heart is still hurting. Perhaps you are still asking why something you prayed for didn't work out. But you don't have to understand everything today. You only have to trust enough to take the next step. So tonight, release the door that closed. Release the person who walked away. Release the opportunity that didn't happen. Release the version of the future you were trying so hard to control. And say quietly, God, if you closed it, give me the courage not to return. If you redirected me, give me the wisdom to follow. And if you are leading me somewhere new, give me the faith to walk forward. And if that prayer is truly in your heart, write ITRUSTGOD as direction. Let those words be your declaration. Not that you know what tomorrow holds, but that you refuse to let yesterday control where you go next. And if this message touched something inside you, share it with someone who is struggling with a closed door right now. Someone may be sitting alone tonight, believing they have been rejected by life. Someone may be crying over an opportunity they lost. Someone may be blaming themselves for something that simply wasn't meant to continue. Your share could be the reminder they need. This isn't the end. Keep walking. And if you want more messages like this, messages about faith, purpose, healing, courage, and trusting God through uncertain seasons, subscribe and stay connected. But don't subscribe out of fear that you'll miss a miracle. Subscribe because you want to keep filling your heart with reminders that strengthen your faith and encourage you to keep moving forward. My beloved child, the door behind you has closed. Let it stay closed. You don't have to knock again. You don't have to beg again. You don't have to prove yourself again. Take a deep breath, lift your head, and walk. Because somewhere beyond what you can currently see, there is still a road ahead. And the next chapter of your life does not need to look like the last one. Walk forward in faith. Your story is still being written.